Welcome to Thrive Radio. I'm your host, Amy Montgomery, entrepreneur and digital marketing agency owner. Today, my guest is Bryan Saygray. He's a performance coach with a unique journey from athlete to medical school and surgeon. As a founder of Performance Coach for Your Brain, Bryan specializes in guiding high performers who seek more fulfillment and joy. With a focus on mindset, he tackles fears, overgiving tendencies, and the intricacies of setting boundaries, helping individuals make small changes for a life of intention. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and just dive in and share with your audience.
Yes, definitely. So can you start a little bit around sharing your journey and how you became a performance coach? Because I think that's you have a unique journey to
Yes,
learn today.
for sure. Yeah. And I'll give you guys the short version. So basically, all of my life, I was an athlete. I was a distance runner, long distance runner, grew up running in high school, ran Division I NCAA, ran after college for a while, went to the Olympic trials. So that was like what I thought my whole life was going to be. And then I pivoted and decided that instead of trying to maintain this perfect human body, that I would try to fix other people's, right? I dove into medical school, went to residency, did 2 fellowships, and focused on foot and ankle trauma and reconstruction for a couple of decades, became a residency director, fellowship director, professor at Georgetown, loved that. And then life happened, right? Then sadly, I lost my dad to his second round of lung cancer. And I grew up on a small ranch in Texas, just me and my brother, mom and dad. So we were a very close family. Mom and dad had grown this very large trade company, plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical, with nothing more than high school degrees, to this huge company in the state of Texas. And when my dad passed away, I was at this ideal role of mine in Georgetown, living the dream. My wife and I had just put down 20% on an $800,000 beautiful red brick home right in Georgetown, right by Georgetown Cupcake, which a lot of you guys know that. They were a big show for a while. And what was really funny, and I say funny, is we hadn't unpacked boxes yet. And so then I find out that my dad passes away. And I thought to myself right then, I have to go back to Texas. I didn't even hesitate. And so I resigned from my position. My wife was fully on board. We moved back to Texas, and I stepped in and took over the family business. My mom was just very physically and mentally fit, but emotionally she was not. They were high school sweethearts, 50 years married, 47 years of the business, and she was crushed. And so I took over the family business, and we built it up, and we sold it, and we had a great exit. And then my wife came to me and she said, okay, it's been 6 months now since you haven't been working. You better find something to do or I'm kicking you out of the house. And so she told me, she said, what I've noticed is when you were an athlete, and afterwards when you helped coach other athletes, and in medical school when you were the residency director, and then when you owned the business, she said you've always been mentoring and coaching people on how to get through life, how to become better who they are, and just deal with what we all struggle with, right?
Yeah.
And she said, but no one's ever paid you for that. She's, what if you did that as like a job? How would that be? How would that feel? And I was like, let's do it. And so it was really my wife who pushed me and said, I feel like this is always what you've wanted to do. You've just found a way to not do it yet. And that's how I got here.
I love that. And kudos to your wife for her support too. And that is rare. So we've got to give her some credit.
I'm telling you, I say it so often publicly, but really and truly, I would not be where I am without her. She worked 2 jobs as a waitress, helped pay my medical school loans off. She is a saint, and definitely I'm where I am because of her.
So how has your understanding of the power of mindset played a role in your personal and professional life?
Yeah, this is a great question. I love this because at first in my life, I think, me included, and probably most of us, we don't know anything about this, right? It's like we go to grade school, right? Pre-kinder's like fun. We play with Play-Doh and we sleep on the blanket and we have cookies and milk, and that's all great. And then you go to school and it's like science, math, physics, English, right? Politics. They teach you and give you all this knowledge, which is fantastic. But no one like teaches you, how do you use your brain? How do you control your thoughts? What are your beliefs and your emotions? Do you push these things down? Do you sit with them? No one teaches you any of that. And then when I became an athlete, especially an endurance athlete, I will tell you, when you're running 45 miles into a 200-mile race, you start to pretty quickly figure out that almost all of your success in life comes from your mindset, period. And so I would be out there running these races, and my physical body, I knew my physical body could go on much longer than my mind could, but my mind would try to tell me, oh, you're too tired, just stop. And so I think as an athlete, that is when I first understood that this thing up here truly runs the whole show. And so I think learning that in my mid 20s made me realize that I need to start investing in how to use my mind, not just learning, more things. I need to focus on how do I take the things I already have and use them better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I can so relate with that too. I want to pipe in a little bit because I lived a life, most of my life was very unaware, didn't know how to process my emotions. I didn't know you're supposed to, like you said. And I thought that you just go and do things to make you feel better, like most people.
Right.
Shop, go to Starbucks, do something external to make the internal feel better. And I had absolutely no clue the power of processing emotion, right?
Isn't it wild? I tell people this all the time, and a lot of people don't even realize emotions, every emotion that you have is literally a chemical reaction that happens in your brain. And the chemical reaction lasts about 90 seconds. So here's what's really cool. If you're having this emotion and it's anger, sadness, happiness, whatever it is, after about 90 seconds, whatever feeling that you have now, that is you consciously giving that emotion that feeling. So you can either fight it, sit with it, allow it to process, change your mood, whatever it is. But just know that after 90 seconds, that emotion's over. Now your conscious brain is tricking you.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most powerful things that I learned in that process is sitting in it. I found that, especially if I was like super depressed or super upset, and I would sit in the emotion and start to ask myself, okay, this is the top level emotion I'm feeling. What is the root emotion, right? Because there's three levels of emotions. Get down to the core and like, why am I feeling this? And then grieve whatever it was that's bothering me. Like, it is what it is, type of a thing. And then you find peace and joy.
So good. It's so good. It's so great. I think I'm out here at my ranch right now. And my view is much prettier than y'all's. I hate to say it, but we're having them do some work out here, and they're pulling up dead cedar trees. And it made me think of exactly what you said. Most people in life, they just address the symptoms, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to pull a tree out of the ground, you have to pull it out by the roots, just like you said. And so most people, they never trace that emotion back to the root. And when you trace it back to the root, you can dismantle it and take it apart, and then you can create a new one. That's
Yeah.
what's really cool.
Yeah. I love that. So, as a performance coach, you help individuals who are high performers and they are lacking fulfillment and joy. What are some common challenges do you observe in these individuals in that category?
Yeah, this is so common. You and I talked about this previously. It's so wild. I think so many high performers, which all of us are high performers, right? Whether it's in our job, whether it's my wife, whether it's my mom who was crushing it at home, keeping everything together, whatever it is, we all are high performers. The key is that most of us are defining success by what society has told us or what we see on TV or when we swipe on social media. And so what happens is that you're like this duck swimming on a pond. On the surface, we look awesome, but underneath, our legs are going like a mile a minute and we are totally a disaster. And so, what I found in all of these clients, because this is what I dealt with, is that you chase these peaks, you chase these mountaintops. I want the sports car, I want the house, I want the red bottom shoes, whatever it is. And you get those things, or you get to the top of the mountain, and then you go, oh my gosh, the view up here is not as good as I thought it was. And so what happens is you get more and more, you're trying to fill some emptiness that you feel. That's lack of fulfillment. Problem is that external things, material things will never make you fulfilled. That comes from inside. And so many of the clients that I work with are big level CEOs, multiple houses, vacation all the time, but they are miserable. And it's because they're chasing the wrong thing. And so I help them realize that those things are fine. Like, I'm okay with material wealth. That's great. But it's just a snippet of what you really need to feel fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. Yeah, to that point, even if you don't have a ton of money, because money just magnifies. So if you are, say, going to Amazon every day, buying things whenever you feel bad, guess what? You get a ton of money, it's just going to be amplified. You're going to have, let's say you go buy shoes, you have your little collection of shoes, it's now going to be hundreds and thousands of shoes.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because money is truly an amplifier. And so many people have said that the true measure of a person is what they do with their wealth. And I truly believe that it's whatever your tendencies are with money, when you get more of it, your tendencies don't change. You just can do more of them now. And so you're 100% correct. If you're a giver and you make more money, you're going to give more. If you use money and things as a crutch, you're just going to spend more money to find more crutches. And so that's a great realization to point out to people because money truly just fixes money problems. At the end of the day, we all struggle with anxiety, depression, the loss of a loved one, right? Like those things we all struggle with. Money doesn't fix the real problems. We all have those.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, how do you address fear of success and fear of failure with your clients, and what strategies do you employ to keep them engaged in the coaching process?
Yeah, this is really good because a lot of people think that fear is fear of failure, which I'm so glad you brought in fear of success because you'd be surprised how many people are, it doesn't matter introvert, extrovert, you'd be surprised how many people their personality is such that they get this huge promotion or they get a big bonus and then they are like totally deer in the headlights. They're like, I don't know what to do now. Like all these people are saying, congratulations, you finally made it, whatever. And so then that scares them. And then you have people who are, it's total fear of failure. It's, I'm not good enough. I'm not good looking enough. It's all of that. And here's where everything to me really traces back to. Almost always, if you trace people's fear or stress back to that root, like we talked about, it almost always goes back to human connection. Almost everybody's fear in life is wanting to feel accepted, connected, loved, appreciated, right? Humans, were pack animals. And so ultimately, what I found with almost all of my clients is when they really find out what the root of that fear or that success is, it's either these people aren't going to like me, I'm going to leave those people in the dust. It always goes back to somehow the connection that we have with other humans. And so what I try to work with them on through accountability is making them realize that the best place for them to invest to try to get beyond those fears and to get beyond that fear of success or failure is to just stay curious, stay humble, and keep moving. Because as soon as they stagnate or as soon as they close their mind, then they've lost. So for me, it's about accountability and then staying curious. That is the answer.
I love that. So let's talk about one of my favorite topics, overgiving. So if somebody is an overgiver and they're not setting boundaries, how do you guide clients to overcoming this challenge? And especially when it comes to balancing your personal and professional life.
Yeah, this is so good. So I will tell you, if you do nothing else in your life, honestly, besides learn to set boundaries and say no, which those are like really trendy topics right now, but I'm glad they are because they're so important. If you can learn to do those two things, I'm telling you right now, it's like the biggest game changer that you'll ever make. Because if you say yes to everything, what happens is you're saying no to things that you might not see yet, that could be opportunities that are going to be missed now because you said yes to the wrong things. And so the easiest way I tell people to set a boundary, I just give them some very basic principles. The first thing is a boundary is not for anybody else. A boundary is for you. A boundary is not used to penalize anyone. It's not used, I'm going to set a boundary and this is because of this. No, you set a boundary to protect yourself first and foremost. That's rule number one. Rule number two is in order for a boundary to be effective, the other person has to know what the boundary is, right? You can't set this boundary and say, if my friend calls me and just starts unloading on me on the phone and yelling, I'm going to hang the phone up. You didn't tell them, first of all, that bothers you. You didn't tell them about the boundary. And so they're not going to respond well if you just hang the phone up. So step one, boundaries for you. Step two, the other person has to know the boundary exists. Step three is you have to have a I don't like to say consequence, but you have to have, if the boundary is broken, this is what I'm going to do. And then if the boundary is broken, guess what? You have to enforce the consequence, because if you don't, nothing changes. And so that is, for me, the basics, right? It's like those four principles. And I just think it makes it really easy for people. I think the biggest missed issue with boundaries is people think boundaries are for other people, but they're not. They're for themselves.
Yeah. And fear that once you set this boundary, that it's going to destroy your relationship with that person. And in reality, I've gone through this and setting boundaries and realizing that that wasn't the case.
No.
Yeah. And
it brings you closer. Every time I've ever set a boundary, I've actually had the person come to me literally, and they've said, like, apologetically, right? Like, Bryan, I had no idea that that bothered you. I'm so sorry. And I said, no, I'm sorry because I never told you that. And that's on me. And it actually has made us closer, like, every single time. And so what's always been so amazing to me is that that hard conversation ends up bringing those two people closer.
yeah, definitely. I agree. So how can someone shift from feeling stuck and uncertain about their future to creating life of intention and purpose? That's a big statement.
Yeah, this is a hard one to tackle. I will tell you, most people are stuck in for two reasons. They're stuck because they are living in the past, or they're trying to predict the future. That's usually where like 80% of people are stuck, because I'm so burned up and I'm so upset about this thing that I did, and I'm never going to be able to fix this. Or they're worried about, what if this doesn't happen? What if I go to court for this ticket? And it's like they're worried about the future, or they're worried about the past. And then what happens is they just ruminate, and they don't do the most important thing that's like the trend through all of this, which is take action. And the key is that none of us really know what to do typically the first time. But if you don't do anything, if you don't move forward at all, then you never get unstuck. And so the analogy that I like to use is to live with more intention and purpose, and to create this future that you absolutely love, you have to have clarity, right? We all know that. What's really interesting, though, is clarity never comes before action. And so the analogy or the metaphor that I use is, I lived in Northern California for a while, where they have some of the densest fog in the US. And I tell people, if you're driving in a car and the visibility is only 10 feet, right? You can only see 10 feet in front of you, but you have to go 20 feet. The only way that you can go from 0 to 20 is you have to go at least 10 feet first. Then you'll get more clarity, and then you can go the last 10 feet. But in order to get that clarity, you had to take action. And so a lot of people, they're looking for intention, they're looking for their why or their purpose or whatever, and they're hoping to find clarity, but they're not moving. They're not creating momentum. They're not taking any action. You'll never find that if you don't start moving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Yeah. And just, I think, testing out your faith and believing that there's more, right?
Yes, you have to.
Because
Yep.
it's so easy to just think, oh, things can't change. This is impossible. If I sit there and focus, and I did this a number of years ago. I was miserable and I wanted a better life. I hated where I was at, and every day I drove to work and I just did my little Tony Robbins priming and thank God for my life. Basically, what I wanted to happen, I imagined in my mind that it existed. Thank you that I have tons of people follow me. Thank you that I have my own business. Thank you that I get to work from home. Thank you that, and I didn't think that it would do anything, but I did it anyway. And it completely changed my life.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. I think that humans, the brain literally doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality, right? Like, we really don't. They did this study in Harvard with these piano players, these concert level piano players, and they put them in a room, they hooked them up to all these sensors, and they had them play the piano. And they looked at all the different areas of the brain that lit up. And then they put them in another room and said, play that same piece of music, but in your mind, don't move your fingers at all. The same areas of the brain lit up with the same intensity. And so what we found is that your brain doesn't know if it's real or if it's imaginary. And so if you think about that, and you think about athletes and dancers that use this visualization, just like you described, if you believe something in your own mind and you run that positive thought over and over again, and then you start taking action on it, you literally can turn dreams into reality, like for real.
Yeah.
But you can go the other way too if you just have the same negative thought. That's why what you put in determines what comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So let's talk a little bit about the impact of underlining trauma and escapism. I'm definitely guilty of this. How do you approach coaching individuals dealing with these challenges, and what strategies do you use to help them find healthier coping mechanisms?
Yeah, this is so prevalent now too, right? This ever since COVID, we've seen this a lot. People got locked up, their identities were taken away. Really common with PTSD and a lot of our veterans. And it's sad because what happens too often is, and this is not a ding on coaches or therapists or doctors or whatever, but this person is treated and the underlying problem is diagnosed, right? It's found, right? They find this thing. But then what they do is they treat the symptoms, right? This person maybe lost a loved one when they were young and they're depressed. So then they give them a pill and they treat the depression, which is great. The problem is that they're not changing the actual structure of the brain, which we can do, and they're not replacing bad habits or bad pathways with new ones. Mm-hmm. And so the key is that most of our bad habits, if they're trauma based, if they're escapism based, most bad habits that people have are pleasure based, meaning, right, addiction, alcohol, gambling, they release dopamine. We all know that. So what happens is if you're trying to get rid of one of those habits, but the brain loves that dopamine, you can't take away a habit that inside of their brain makes them feel good and then not replace it with something else that makes it feel good. That's why I love to incorporate like getting people outside in nature, taking a walk, maybe getting a pet, right? Getting into the gym, doing doodling, arts and crafts, maybe learning to play an instrument, things that also release dopamine, but that do it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I like that. That's so true. Yeah, it's so easy to binge on social media, especially TikTok swipe, and then video games. I'm guilty of the video games on my phone.
So oh yeah, we all are. And here's the reality, right? Like social media should be called like social experiment, but social media literally it's designed to get you addicted to what they're trying to get you to do. It is purposefully designed, like what you click on, what you read, what you scroll through, they show you more of it, right? Then they show you ads. It literally is designed like by psychiatrists, by people that study the brain to keep you on the phone all day long. And so even if you just accept that and you understand that, that's not like a conspiracy theory. That's true. They want you to stay on there. Yeah. So even just knowing that and being aware of that will help a lot of people realize, okay, I get it. I'm at risk. I'm going to spend 1 hour less today, right? I'm going to just start simple. And then you just build from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that neuromarketing is used all on social media platforms to produce dopamine in your brain so that you watch the videos, and those that do marketing understand that. So yep. We're out there creating the content to influence you, and if you don't know to protect yourself, then yeah, you just get pulled right in.
You do.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who is looking to take their life to the next level and they're unsure where to start?
Yeah, I think honestly this is a great question. If you're unsure where to start, it's hard. The most important place to start, honestly, is with accepting that you're the problem. Nobody wants to hear that, right? It doesn't mean, okay, look, people might have a bad environment, okay? They may have a bad boss. I understand that. They might be in a bad relationship, right? I get that. But those things are still external to like your world. And so I'm not saying that everything in life is fair. We know that is not true. However, you have 100% control of how you feel, how you react, what you say, and how you respond, to the point to where, remember like the Buddhist monks that literally were protesting and they set and torched themselves like on fire? We have a conviction that people that are literally being physically like assaulted can go to a happy place in their mind in an environment like that. So it's, if your boss is tough on you or they're really riding you hard, the most important thing to realize is first is it's not them, it's you, right? You are affecting yourself in your own mind. Again, doesn't mean you couldn't be in a better environment. So step number one, if you want to improve, is realize that it starts with you. And then step number two is you don't have to do it alone. Like, you have to do the work, right? Everyone loves to say on social media, I see this every day, no one's going to ride in on the white horse to save you. No one's going to save you. First of all, I think there's a lot of people that would save me. So I feel really bad for people to think no one's going to save them. That's not a good way to go through life. I know what they're trying to say. What they're trying to say is no one's going to do the work for you. That I believe in, right? With that being said, you don't have to do that work alone, right? Like, when I finally realized I'm not this tough guy that grew up on a ranch digging post holes in Texas, that it was okay for me to ask for help, my life got better within a few days. Not where it is now, but I started realizing, like, why didn't I ask people that had already been there for help?
Yeah, I agree with that. I grew up in a kind of environment where you don't, I was taught not to ask for help, and that was a weakness, and it was embarrassing, and you don't accept help and all that kind of stuff, especially like if anyone was going to give you any type of money. Oh, you don't. I had a rich uncle, and he would put money on the floor, and he'd say, as a kid, he'd say, jump over it and you can have it, but which mortified my mother, right? You don't take
Yeah,
that. And then he'd throw the
right,
money in the fire. If you're not taking it, I'm throwing it in the fire. That sort of
right.
thing. So that was the dynamics growing up, but I had to learn that it was okay to ask, and it was very empowering to ask for other people to help. And so now
It really is.
now I'm very quick to say red, white flag, I surrender, help.
It really is. And I think too, like, people mistake help, right? Like, as a coach, I think a lot of people think that someone's going to just hand you the key, right? Like, they're going to just give you the answer. And so it's so much different than like with a mentor, with a consultant, with a coach, or with turning to someone for help. If you really want to help someone, or you really are looking for the right type of help, what you want is outside perspective and someone who is going to ask you different questions so you can get different answers, right? That's the best kind of help. I think what we shy away from as humans, and why we think asking for help is a weakness, is exactly what you said. Perfect example. You go to a colleague and you say, hey, I need help with this Excel spreadsheet. I don't know how to do this stuff. It looks like hieroglyphics. And the person says, I don't have time to show you. Just give it to me and I'll do it, right? That's what people think help is. The other person just finishes it for you. Now you still don't know how to do it. They didn't question you. That's not help. And so people shy away from help because we're taught, society teaches us that help is, I don't know how, fix it for me. What help really is, I don't know how, show me, teach me, help me, guide me. That's what it should be.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were able to give yourself one piece of advice when you first started out, what would it be?
Oh gosh, this question. Yeah, I love this. Honestly, for me, I think it would be just to be more curious. I talked about this recently on social media. When I was younger, I had this really bad tendency, really all the way up until I was probably in my mid to late 20s. If anybody's ever seen that show, The Big Bang Theory, there's a character on there, Sheldon Cooper, who my wife says that's me. And I don't say this like to impress you, but just to impress upon you, like, I do have what they call like an eidetic memory. Like, I was in medical school and I could remember what page, what paragraph, so I could remember things really well. And when I was growing up, I was the type of person where I would remember like exactly what Amy had on when we went to lunch the first time, where we were sitting, what you ordered to eat. And so what happened was I would tell people or correct people instead of being open and curious and questioning people. And I think for a lot of my life, I did a lot of telling and a lot of explaining and not a lot of actually questioning and being open minded. And so if I could go back and do that one part over again, I would have tried to be curious a lot younger.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely. Bryan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise today.
I really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah, and if there's people that are listening that would love to work with you, what's the best way to contact you?
The best way is reach out to me on LinkedIn, follow me, connect with me. There's a link on my profile. We can jump on a call and have a chat.
Perfect. And I'll put all your links down below. And if you're listening, you want more information about this podcast and upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.